I found out in a matter of seconds, your life can change forever. I'll never forget it. I was excited. I was fixing to go on vacation. So I loaded up 2 pieces of equipment on a stake body truck and headed toward the dump to dump the equipment off. And wouldn't you know, 2 miles down the road, I felt something. Looked back and I saw something in the road, which I thought came off my truck. And so immediately I pulled over the side of the road, put my flashers on, and started basically running toward this debris that was in the road. This is the only thing I remember about the wreck that day. There's a couple things, and this was one of them. I heard the brakes, and then the next thing I know, I wake up in the ambulance. The gentleman had somebody in front of him had slammed on the brakes and he couldn't go forward or right, and he decided to take the guardrail out. Well, that's where I was standing. He hit me running 70 miles an hour in the back, hit me so hard it threw me over into 40 westbound traffic. It was heavy traffic, but you know, the Lord, He had His hand on me, and being thrown over into 40 westbound traffic and to not get struck again was a miracle. A guy that witnessed it said he thought I was a car hood coming over the median. Come to find out, it broke my neck, my back, my pelvis, crushed my left ankle, and pretty much amputated my right leg from the knee down. And what they didn't know at the time was my iliac artery was busted, so I was dying. And when they slammed the doors, just like you and I talking right now, I heard the Lord tell me, Dave, be still and know that I am God. I didn't have a clue what was wrong with me, and I passed out. But a peace came over me that I never felt before, and I may never feel again, but I passed out. The first 13 hours they went in, fixed the bleed, 2 blood transfusions later, I wake up the next morning and I can speak to my wife and my family. The next miracle was I had no brain injuries whatsoever. On the leg, we decided that instead of amputating it like they wanted to do, I asked them if there was something else they could do, and they decided that they would try a procedure called a flap procedure, where they take a muscle, which was my lat muscle, and they transplant it to my leg. In order for that to work, you have to have a pulse to it. And so the doctors were very apprehensive about it. They said, well, it takes 3 days. I said, well, I think I got time. And so we tried it. I wish you would have seen the doctor's face the next morning when they hooked up that machine to that leg, and it went and he looked at his fellows, and then he looked over at the other fellows, and he looked back at me, and then they just walked out. And I was like, what's going on, Doc? And then he comes back in 5 minutes later, unhooks it, and he said, you know, Dave, we've never had anybody get a pulse to one of these in 12 hours. And then I told him, I said, well, Doc, I told you this was a God thing. And they also told me I would never walk again. I told them the exact same thing. I said, you know what? I'm a God-fearing guy. You do the best you can, and we're going to see who wins that battle. And, well, I walked in here today, and I praise the Lord for it. 3 or 4 days later, I'm not sure exactly on that, but a nurse come in with a tat on her arm. And I told her, I said, well, that's pretty neat. She said, yeah, I just got that 3 or 4 days ago. And I said, well, what does it say? She told me and showed it to me. It said, be still and know that I am God. And I threw my arms up. He showed me right then that He was going to get me through it. He didn't give me a timeline. We're coming up on 10 years now. But you know what? He did assure me that I was going to be okay. It took me 4 months to be able to even get out of bed. after the 4-month period was over, we went to Wake Med. We got involved with their rehabilitation department. I was in a wheelchair for 16 months, walker for 22 months, canes for 2 years, one cane for about a year, and now I've been walking on my own now for about 2 years. And so God's really had his hand on me. He's probably set a record out at Wake Med for rehabilitation, I think almost 4 years, and am still there to this day doing rehab, but I do it independently now. He's also opened the doors up to allow me to come alongside rehab patients where I can share my story and try to encourage others. Yeah, I had a guy come by today, man, and say, "Hey, man, you're my hero, man," because I was doing the elliptical, man. I was like, "Oh, man, our hero's right there, buddy." But I appreciate it. Because of where I'm at now, they didn't see me when I was in there in 13 when I couldn't walk. And when the first time I got in the pool, I still couldn't walk, It took me almost 5 years to walk again on my own, Hunting and fishing is kind of like my passion. Just as soon as I got where I could start moving again, he started opening up the doors where I could go out and start enjoying outdoors, doing my hunting and fishing. And man, just like all these hunting trips, man, he opens the doors like crazy, man. He just opens up the doors because I pray now, Lord, as long as you give me breath, open the doors. I could definitely say, without a shadow of a doubt, that this has brought my family closer together. I've got good, loving daughters and a wife that loves me, and they've been there with me every step of the way. And so, I just want to thank the Lord that they've been in my life and they've been able to come alongside me. And it's been tough. I mean, you take, once I came home, it was almost 5 years before I could walk on my own again. And so not only my wife and my kids, but my brothers, they had to go in my house and, open up doorways so I could get a wheelchair in, put a ramp up. I've been really blessed that my immediate family and my siblings have been nothing but supportive and has helped along the way, and it's done nothing but help us grow tremendously. I've loved the Lord my whole life. I was saved at 8. Now I didn't serve the Lord my whole life, but once I rededicated my life, I swore that I was going to live for Him for the rest of my life to the best of my ability.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me.
And he just had his hand on me, but you know what? I don't ever remember him speaking to me directly. In my whole life serving him and loving on him. And man, when you have something like that happens in your life, it just changes you tremendously.
And all my life you have been faithful.
What we're worthy of is death and hell, man, and he's been able to pull me out of that and give me hope. And I love him, man, for it. That's why as long as he gives me breath, man, as long as people want to hear this story, I'm going to share it. Whew, man, I just get tore up when I think about it, man, what he's done for me, man.
I love your voice. You will lead me through the fire, and in darkest night, you were close like no other.
And you know what, man? People ask me all the time, man, why do you think the Lord allowed it to happen to you? And I tell them, man, maybe it's a time for just like this, for me and you to have this discussion. Maybe that's what the whole thing was about. And if it was and you're encouraged, it's worth it all.